You already know that feeling. That tight chest, that racing mind, that moment where everything feels like it's closing in, and you genuinely don't know how you're going to make it through the next hour, let alone the rest of the day. You're not broken, you're not weak, you're just carrying way too much, and nobody ever actually taught you what to do about it in a way that works. Here's what nobody tells you. Most of the advice out there about managing stress is generic, surface level, and honestly kind of insulting to your intelligence. Take a walk. Try meditation. Just relax. Right, because if it were that simple, you wouldn't be here watching this right now. You deserve real answers. Science-backed, actually proven methods that work even when your nervous system feels like it's completely fried. And before we go deeper into all 5 of these, I want to mention that there are related programs linked down in the video description below. If you've been trying to figure this out on your own for months or even years, and nothing has really stuck, those programs exist for people who are serious about changing this, not for people who are just curious, for people who are genuinely tired of the cycle and ready to break out of it. Go check them out after this video. But right now, let's get into what your body and brain actually need. Number 1. And this one is going to sound so simple that you might almost dismiss it. Slow, controlled breathing. Now wait, before you roll your eyes, hear me out, because the science behind this is genuinely jaw-dropping. Your nervous system has 2 modes, fight or flight, and rest and digest. When stress hits, your body floods with cortisol, your heart rate spikes, your muscles tense, your thoughts spiral. Your brain literally starts making worse decisions because blood is being redirected away from your prefrontal cortex, the part that thinks clearly. You become reactive instead of rational. Sound familiar? Here's the thing. Research has shown that slow, deliberate breathing, specifically breathing out longer than you breathe in, directly activates your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is like a highway that runs from your brain to your gut, and it controls your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and recover mode. When you breathe out slowly for 5 to 6 seconds, you are literally sending a signal to your brain that says the danger is over. Within 90 seconds, measurable changes in your heart rate and cortisol begin to happen. Not 30 minutes later, 90 seconds. Think about how many times you've sat in a spiral for an hour, anxious and overwhelmed, when 90 seconds of the right breathing pattern could have started pulling you back. That gap between where you are and where you could be is costing you energy, productivity, relationships, and sleep. Every single day. Number 2. Cold exposure. This one is fascinating. There are studies showing that even 30 seconds of cold water on your face or the back of your neck can trigger a dramatic shift in your stress response. The shock of the cold activates your dive reflex, which drops your heart rate and pulls blood toward your vital organs. It sounds counterintuitive. You're adding a stressor to calm a stressor. But the research is clear. Short, controlled cold exposure trains your body to regulate its own stress response more efficiently over time. People who have been dealing with chronic stress for years, and I mean the kind that makes you feel like you're running on fumes, exhausted but wired, unable to sleep even when you're desperate for rest, they often report dramatic improvements in their baseline anxiety levels after consistently incorporating this. Not because cold water is magic, but because it teaches your nervous system that it can handle intensity and come back down. That resilience transfers. It bleeds into every area of your life. Number 3 is one that most people completely underestimate, and that's movement. Not intense exercise, just movement. There is powerful research showing that even 10 minutes of walking, especially outside, reduces amygdala activity. The amygdala is your brain's alarm system. It's what keeps firing stress signals even when the actual threat is gone. You've probably experienced this. The meeting is over, the argument is finished, but your body is still in emergency mode hours later. Walking, especially rhythmic bilateral movement where your arms swing, literally helps your brain process and file away emotional experiences more effectively. This is actually one of the core mechanisms behind why certain trauma therapies work so well. The bilateral stimulation helps the brain shift from reactive mode to processing mode. You don't need a gym. You don't need equipment. You just need to move your body. And within 10 minutes, measurable neurological changes are happening that reduce the physical experience of stress. Number 4. And this one is where the emotional depth really hits. Connection. Real human connection. Not scrolling through social media. Not texting. Actual voice-to-voice or face-to-face interaction with someone who makes you feel safe. Studies on loneliness and stress show that social isolation actually increases cortisol in the same way that physical danger does. Your brain doesn't distinguish much between being chased by a threat and being completely alone with no support. Both trigger the survival response. Here's the painful truth. A lot of people dealing with chronic stress are also dealing with deep loneliness, even when they're surrounded by people. because they've never told anyone how bad it actually gets. They keep performing, keep functioning, keep showing up, while internally they are running on empty. And the longer you carry that alone, the harder the pattern becomes to break. Just one meaningful conversation with someone who genuinely gets it can measurably lower blood pressure, reduce cortisol levels, and shift your emotional state in ways that no app can replicate. If you recognize yourself in that, I want you to know, you are not alone in feeling alone. And that's not a cliché. That is the most common thing I hear from people who finally start doing this work seriously. Everyone thought they were the only one. Nobody was the only one. Number 5. And this might be the most powerful of all. Cognitive reappraisal. This is a specific, scientifically validated mental technique where you consciously change how you are interpreting a stressful situation. Not toxic positivity, not pretending everything is fine, but genuinely shifting the frame. Brain imaging studies show that people who practice cognitive reappraisal regularly have less activation in the amygdala and more activation in the prefrontal cortex when confronted with stressors. Over time, they literally rewire the architecture of how their brain responds to threats. The difference between someone who crumbles under pressure and someone who stays clear and functional isn't that one of them has an easier life. It's that one of them has trained their brain to interpret challenges differently. That's a learnable skill. It is not a personality trait you're born with. It can be built, just like a muscle, with the right approach and the right consistency. Here's the part that matters most. None of these 5 things require money. None of them require perfect conditions. But what they do require is that you actually do them consistently. And that's where most people fall short. Not because they're lazy, because they're overwhelmed and they don't have a clear, structured path. They try one thing for a week, it doesn't feel like enough, and they go back to surviving instead of thriving. The cost of staying stuck here is not just bad days. It's your health degrading quietly over time. It's relationships strained by your emotional unavailability when you're stretched too thin. It's years passing where you keep saying you'll figure it out later, and later keeps moving further away. If today is the day that you're actually ready to stop surviving and start building something different, then the programs linked in the video description below were designed specifically for this moment. Not for people who are just browsing. For people who have watched a video like this and felt something shift, who are tired enough of the pain that they're finally willing to do something real about it. Those resources have already changed the trajectory for so many people who are exactly where you are right now. The door is open. The only question is whether you're going to walk through it or keep waiting for a better time that never quite arrives.